Until now, if you wanted a luxury 7-seater SUV with the 3-pointed badge, the big boy GLS was your only option. That is about to change because the GLB, is finally coming to India. Alright, let's start with the way it looks, and nomenclature-wise, it sits between the GLA and the GLC. But if you look at it, there are a lot of cues that you'll find from the big GLS, especially the headlamps. You've got these rectangular-ish headlamps. The nose is nice and upright as well. You've got the flat bonnet with these two nice and prominent creases. And overall, it's got that big SUV feel about it. It doesn't really look like a hatchback, and that is a good thing because it is a 7-seater, of course. In terms of width, it is exactly the same as the GLA, and it's only millimeters apart in comparison to the GLC. So definitely in person, it's got a bit more prominence than you would see in the camera. And you got the studded grille that looks really nice, big Mercedes logo. Low down, you got a little bit of chrome on the bumpers, and you've got the 4 air dams as well. So yeah, it does have a sense of sportiness as well. And overall from the front end, it does look like a baby GLS. Now over to the side, the silhouette of the GLS just can't be ignored because especially towards the rear, you don't have anything that's sloping down or tapering off, and that has been done to maximize space in the third row. Of course, very GLS-like. What's also GLS-like are the wheel arches, angular, you got a bit of a cladding, and the 19-inch wheels that fill them out really nicely. And overall, the look is again very much like an SUV more than a hatchback. And in terms of length and wheelbase, it sits again between the GLA and the GLC, 100 mm more wheelbase than a GLA and marginally less than the GLC. Now at the rear, you can't not say GLS because just look at these tail lamps, extremely similar, and the overall look is nice and boxy, something that you really like in an SUV because that of course means maximum practicality. Low down, you have the 4 exhaust with the chrome. Now, of course, these are not really connected, but they do the aesthetic job quite well. Bit of a diffuser as well, again for aesthetics only. But like I said, it does tick all the right boxes in terms of exterior design. You know, you want that SUV, you've got the 7-seater look. This does it very, very well. Based on the A-Class and GLA's compact front-wheel drive MFA2 architecture, this is by far the largest vehicle in that family, and that bodes well for the interior space. Now inside the GLB, if you've seen a modern Mercedes, you've seen all of this because it is very close in comparison to the GLA or even the GLC. The layout is very similar to the GLA, which means you get these turbine-like AC vents, a lot of brushed aluminum, a lot of piano black, and it does have an air of premiumness. But exclusive to the GLB are some tough-looking bits like this one-piece brushed aluminum panel, some open-pore wood here on the dash and the doors as well, and it also has its bit of sportiness as well with these nice Alcantara looking seats. But this here is the lower spec variant, which means you don't get the automatic seats, the electric adjust. The one coming to India, of course, will get all of that. Apart from that, you've got the touchscreens, the dual screen setup that is very typical of Mercedes, MBUX, which is one of the most sought after systems right now, and the digital instrument cluster, which is extremely customizable, a lot that you can do around and fiddle about. Ambient lighting is part of the package as well and does look quite nice. You get a panoramic sunroof. Wireless charging will be an option on the car coming to India. In terms of features, since the GLB will be a CBU, it will come packed with a lot of tech. However, the more important bits are the middle row, in which a lot of customers would like to spend their time, and of course the third row. So let's quickly see what that's like. Right, so in the middle row of the GLB, and space, as you can see, is not the biggest problem because you have a decent amount of knee room. Headroom is quite good as well. Fitting 3 will be a bit of a stretch because you have a bit of a tunnel as well. And not a lot in terms of equipment back here. You don't get your blower controls, you just have vents at the back and one Type-C port. More importantly, it is the seats, because you might feel a bit upright and you can adjust the backrest slightly. And yes, that does solve the problem, but the big highlight is of course the sliding mechanism that the seat has, which means you can slide it behind and open up a lot more room. And now this seat is nice and comfortable. You've got the recline on, you've got the seat at its maximum, so you have a good amount of room to stretch. You've got some space under the seat to keep your feet in, and that is quite nice. The flexibility obviously also allows you to open up space for the third row passenger, which means he doesn't have to be all crammed in, and that is quite nice. Now for that all important third row. Now people over 6 feet are not supposed to be back there because it is meant for kids and shorter adults. But for this interest of this video, I shall find that out. So no tumble mechanism here. You can just slide the seat forward and that opens a bit of a cavity for you to get into. Now once you're in, obviously you will be seated quite knees up. Like I said, if you're a tall guy, if you're over 6 feet, this isn't the best place, but there are some positives to this. Now, even with this seat at a decent angle for the middle row passenger, you have some space back here. And the big positive is that this seat can be reclined forward or backward. And the biggest one is that you can slide this entire row forward, opening up a lot more space. So on a short journey, even tall adults won't be as uncomfortable. Of course, headroom is a bit of an issue, but you do get your seat belts. No AC vents back here, and on a hot day that can be quite bad. You have USB Type-C ports on each sides, and that's about it. But honestly, overall, to sum it up, it is not a bad place to be. And like I said, if you're not over 6 feet, it's pretty much usable. If you aren't over 6 feet tall, there is decent space with more headroom and legroom, and with a bit of adjustment to the middle row, you can find a good balance. The seats can also fold flat, and that opens more room for the boot as well. With 3 rows up, there is only 130 liters, but you can open that up to 570 liters by dropping down the last row, and up to 1805 liters by dropping down the middle row as well.
Mercedes has confirmed that the engine and variant lineup for India will be a 200, a 220D and a 220D 4MATIC, the same as the GLA.
Now in the driver's seat of the GLB, and it is going to be a full import, which means it'll come with the same engine as the GLA, which is a 1.3 litre petrol in the GLB 200, guys. Of course, the one thing it does miss out on is a lot of punch and poke. So it's not the most potent engine in that sense, but it is very relaxed and calming. Now mated to that is a 7-speed DCT gearbox, same again as on the GLA, and it too is a bit relaxed given the overall nature of the car. So you really can't push it a lot, you have to be relaxed and you have to have a very gentle foot on the accelerator. You of course get drive modes that do alter the driving characteristic, but it overall remains a very subdued and calm and relaxed driving experience. Its 163 horsepower and 250 Nm feels sufficient in the GLB too, but it's not strong outright. What is a good thing, however, is the seating position that makes it more SUV-like to drive, unlike the car-like GLA. In terms of handling too, the GLB is pretty similar to the GLA, and that's not bad because it means you have a nice and light steering, and it is very convenient in and around the city. Now the thing is, since it is a 7-seater, we would have liked to see how it feels like with a full load, because this engine does struggle a bit out on the highways and on open roads, and once the speed goes past 100, 120, that is when things get a bit tricky. However, if you drive it with a relaxed and gentle foot, it's not so bad. And yes, the engine doesn't like to be rung hard, but it will give a burst of performance if you push.
That said, the 190 horsepower 220D diesel will be much suited for a 7-seater.
Now ride and suspension isn't something I can talk a lot about because the roads here are completely opposite of what we have in India, but overall the flatness and the consistency is very much there. A full evaluation of the ride and handling will have to wait, but we can tell you the 19-inch wheels and tires do cause a bit of a thunk in the cabin over sharp speed bumps and lane markers. Right, so that is the India-bound GLB. We of course saw the exterior, the interior, the boot space, the third row. Now the question of price. Since it is being bought in as a CBU import, the GLB's price is likely to be considerably higher than the current established segment of compact luxury SUVs at around 60 to 65 lakh rupees ex-showroom.
This makes it a full 15 lakh rupees more than the GLA and almost as much as today's GLC. However, we hear that the next-gen GLC coming to India in 2023 will move up in price considerably, giving the GLB a bit more breathing room. There's no escaping the fact that it will be a niche offering, but the high-quality, well-equipped interior, great refinement and handsome looks, and for some, the added practicality of 7 seats might just make it worth the stretch.
But of course, we'd love to know your thoughts on the GLB. What do you think of the design? Do you think it makes sense for the third row? Do you think it makes sense over a GLC? Everything you have, just put it down in the comments. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Autocar India and make sure to give us a thumbs up if you like this video as well.